Hello everybody, welcome to the fourth and possibly final version of the video in the series on the parrying dagger scabbard prototype project. Here are the scabbards that we've started with, this being a placeholder carrying scabbard, this being my first attempt out the gate that imitated a holbein dagger, this being the second attempt, which was a great improvement, but really more imitated a lance-connect dagger, scabbard. And this being a as yet unfinished and probably will not be finished narrow scabbard that imitates the shape of what I was going for, and so I decided to give it another shot, and I present to you the belle of the ball. Ladies and gentlemen, I am absolutely thrilled with this. This is so nice. This is what they look like. This is exactly what I'm going for. I'm over the moon. Obviously, this is not what they look like in museums. I understand this is papier-mâché and sculpting clay, but that doesn't matter. The shape is there. And having made the shape, I've learned so much about how these must have been constructed. So without further ado, let's take out the parrying dagger itself. It's pretty. I'm really happy with this. And then we can take out the accessory tools. I have the pricker or the awl over here set aside. I made a 3-piece set. It was always intended, this piece was always intended to carry 2, but I went ahead and made the third because the sets of 3 are very common. This is the needle. It's for when game is broken down in the field, you take several muscle groups and then you thread them together so that they can make a roast that you can put in a pot. And you use a tool like this. Sometimes they're often a bit longer, but this will work. And then the utility knife or eating knife here. This tool in particular will have a little bit of refinement going on because the Wallace collection, which hosts the scabbard and accessory tools that I'm recreating with this, have been good enough to send me some more detailed pictures, and so this will get a little bit of refinement. Specifically, this shoulder right here, which is what we would expect on a modern eating knife, but no, not on the period ones. This little transition section flowed right into the blade, and so that's what it will look like in a little while. This dagger scabbard is made in 2 parts, which I am quite sure is how the finished one will have to be made, and how the originals were made. I'm also quite sure. And here we have a core, which is very similar to this core, actually. No surprise either, because I kept the same angular configuration of the tools. This worked out very nicely, and then when I covered it with this shell, well, that was where the magic happened. These shells could be in 1 piece. That was very common. But it was also quite common for there to be a chape and locket, separate 2-piece set, I suppose. And the middle would be exposed with like a velvet or leather covering the middle section. More traditional, kind of like this. But these all-metal scabbard shells were very common. And so you'd have a thin piece that was worked. It would have usually a seam that was brazed up the back. On some cases, it was actually brazed up the side, which seems a little sketchy to me from a quality control standpoint, but whatever. And then these decorative elements, these rings or ropings, these were separate pieces that were worked probably over stakes, and then they were mounted on, they were brazed on to the material of the shell. The finial, I am fairly certain that like this section of the finial would be a cone, like a brazed together cone, and then you would fill it with pitch, and then you would work it in using repoussé to create the depth that you wanted. And sometimes these were faceted, and you could hammer that faceting in also. And this tip piece may have been a solid piece that was brazed on, or it could have been part of the repoussé. Depends on how you went about it. And that's not a matter of period or not period. That's a matter of personal preference for the artisan. There is another piece that I did not recreate that would be a covering for this throat of the dagger scabbard. And sometimes, especially on higher quality pieces, it would come up and cover this transition area of the exposed core, and lay on to the top rope or ridge, I guess, of this decorative piece. Not sure how it was all held together. Almost certainly adhesive, but I'm not sure. I cannot see a good way to fit this on, like with like if you low temperature soldered them together. It would kind of work, but I worry that you would damage the interior core. But they may not have cared. I don't know. There is a swordsmith who's making similar scabbards, not exactly this, but similar enough that I'll reach out and ask him how he does it. But he's a working smith, professionally. He may say epoxy, which does me no good. But if he answers epoxy, that may tell me that these were held on with something like pine pitch, or maybe with hide glue. Hide glue is really sticky, and it sticks together things that you wouldn't really expect. But that's where investigation is heading us. This may be the last prototype video. I'm not sure. But even if not, as I begin the build process, there will be further build videos. So, that's it for today. I am really happy with this, folks. And I'll see you on the next one. Thanks for watching.